Today we're going to be visiting two different actors' grave sites that played two very different aliens, E.T. and ALF. Right now I'm at the Forest Lawn Cemetery here in Los Angeles, California, and we're here to see one of the actors that played E.T. Now there are three different actors that fit into the costume. In Steven Spielberg's E.T. Extraterrestrial that came out in 1982. Now before we get to the actor that played E.T., who is buried right here at the Forest Lawn Cemetery, I'm going to run down a list of everybody that wore the costume. And I'm also going to go over the two reasons why there were three actors that played E.T. During my research, I found something interesting, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. This is probably a good time to note that the E.T. costume was able to fit a small person inside it, like a costume, but it was also part animatronic. Now, the animatronics controlled the eyes and kind of the small movements. The bigger movements were done by the actors in the costume. Now, these three different people that played E.T., they all kind of had different roles inside the suit. And the first person apparently played and was inside the costume the most throughout the majority of the movie. His name was Pat Bylan. Now, Pat Bylan was one of the few that could actually fit into the costume. He stood at 2 feet 10 inches. He was known as one of the smallest men alive around the time of the filming of E.T. Now, he passed away in January 27th, 1983. His gravesite is not anywhere in California. I don't recall where it is at the moment, but it's too far for me to drive. Matthew Day Merritt was the second person that played E.T. Now, Matthew Day Merritt was an interesting person. He wasn't a dwarf, but he was a person who was born with no lower limbs. That's right, he was born with no legs. And he learned how to get around walking on his hands. He also learned how to get around on a skateboard. Now, Matthew Day Merritt was only 10 years old when he played E.T. And that allowed him, being that small, as a 10-year-old with no legs, to fit into the costume. When you're watching the E.T. walk, apparently that is Matthew Day Merritt. He uses hands to walk around, and that's why E.T. kind of has that little bit of a wobble.
Okay, they're closed. I'm just gonna kill you.
Okay, swear it one more time. I have
absolute power.
I'm looking for one of the actors that played E.T. One of the actors that were actually in the costume. Her name is Tamara Treaux. Now, I'm not sure if I'm saying that last name correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. I think it's French, but this is the spelling of it. But so we are looking for her gravesite. I have not found it yet. This is a very, very massive cemetery, but I know I'm in the whereabouts. Tamara Treaux was the last person on this list that played E.T., and she was also a dwarf. She stood at 2 feet 7 inches. She was a couple of inches shorter than Pat Bylan. Treaux was another American actor, and she's been in different roles before her E.T. role. She played one of the creatures in a made-for-TV horror movie called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which came out in 1973. Now, apparently, according to Wikipedia, that was her first role, her first movie role. Now, she was in prosthetics in this too, so you will not recognize her by face, but she played one of the gnome creatures. Tamara would go on through her career playing smaller roles here and there until right around the late 70s, early 80s when she joined a performance group. Now the group of performers that she was in were called the Medflies, and the Medflies came out of San Francisco, California. It was a group of singers and actors. Now the Medflies would perform all over the United States, and while they were performing in Los Angeles, Steven Spielberg was in the audience. He was very interested in Tamara, and he would ask her that night if she would be in his movie E.T. Of course, she obliged. Now this was probably circa 1980, 1981. They were still in the process of filming E.T. Now this is according to the New York Times article stating Steven Spielberg spotted her during a Medflies performance in Los Angeles and hired her to take on the role of the earthbound alien E.T. after the original actor was injured. Miss Treaux played the creature in scenes that required movement. Now this is where it gets a little hairy with the research because there's a couple sources saying different reasons. And most of the sources that I looked up just said that there were 3 different actors that played E.T. because the costume of E.T. was very heavy and it was very hot if you stayed in the costume for too long. I also looked up to see if Pat Bylan was hurt at any moment during the making of E.T. and I couldn't find anything on it. Now Pat Bylan did pass away shortly after the movie came out, so that might have been the reason for his early exit. Maybe he got severely sick, but this is just speculation. The other movies that she was in after E.T. was Ghoulies, Rockula, Love in Venice, and The Lingerie Incident. I think there's probably several other ones. Now, I haven't seen a lot of those movies. The only one that I've seen is Ghoulies, and I assume that she was probably in prosthetics in that movie as well. There it is. There's her gravesite. It's a little high up. It's a little kind of, it's beyond my reach, but luckily we got Zoom here. But she was born as Tamara Treaux, D-E-T-R-O, and she changed her name to Treaux when she started acting. She was born on the 21st of October, 1959. She passed away on the 28th of November, 1990. She was only 31 years old. And on the bottom of that says, beloved daughter. Now, near the end of her life, she was having some respiratory problems, and I believe she died of respiratory and heart problems. Now, she was a little difficult to find, but the way you can find her is by putting in Andy Gibb. This here is Andy Gibb. This is his resting area. And now, if you don't know who Andy Gibb is, he was the youngest brother in the Bee Gees, and I believe he was the one with the high voice. But this is a way you can find Treaux by first finding Andy Gibb. And if we back up here a little bit, that's Andy Gibb. And right over here is Tamara Treaux. Rest in peace, Tamara Treaux. You truly brought enjoyment to millions and millions of kids. Brothers Valhalla Memorial Park here in Los Angeles to look at another actor who played a lovable alien. We're looking for Michu Meszaros, and he played ALF, alien life form. And ALF was obviously a sitcom that came on TV every week with a fast-talking, smart aleck alien known as ALF. This is my first time to the cemetery. This is quite different than the other Pierce Brothers cemetery. Now, Michu Meszaros was ALF when you saw ALF from head to toe. He was small enough to fit into the ALF costume. So anytime you saw him walk, anytime you seen him laying down, sitting down, but a full body shot, that was Michu. Now, Paul Fusco was the puppeteer and the voice. When you saw ALF at any time sitting down, not a full body, those movements were done by Paul Fusco. And of course, we're not here to see Paul Fusco. He has not gone to the other side yet. Now, Michu was a Hungarian from Budapest, and he was known as the smallest man alive, standing at 2 feet 9 inches. He was 1 inch shorter than Pat Bylan, the person that played E.T. Now, Michu first came to fame joining the circus, and he was in Ringling Bros and Berman and Bailey circuses. And at these circuses, he was on the bill as the smallest man in the world. In his youth, he attended a school of circus arts. He also had an appearance in a TV show called Dear John, and he was also in films like Big Top Pee-wee, which came out sometime in the 80s, and Waxwork, which came out in 1988. Look Who's Talking, Warlock, The Armageddon, which came out in 1993. And he was also in a couple other films. And the city of Hawthorne, California honored him with the shortest street in the city. Also, another very interesting thing about Michu is he was good friends with Michael Jackson. There's a lot of photos out there with him hanging out with Michael Jackson. Now, apparently Michael Jackson met Michu at one of his performances during his circus act. Now, the way you would say Michu in English is Michael. So it was no mystery that the two Michaels bonded as they did. Now, also like Tamara, Michu's grave is quite a bit up there. Now, you see Michu on his gravesite. That is because Michu is the name he went by. So, Michu Michu was born on the 20th of September, 1939, and he died on the 13th of June, 2016. He was 76. Rest in peace, Michu Meszaros. You brought tons of happiness to many kids. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. These two wonderful actors that brought joy to millions and millions of kids. If you want to see another video of mine, check this video out over here. It's a new statue of Gianna and Kobe Bryant over at the Crypto Arena. Go check that one out. If you want to check out another video, check this video out right over here. I'll see you in either one of those videos. And guys, take care.